Hi, my name is Sharita Manson. This is my 3 to 4 minute video summarizing my presentation, my paper that I wrote for the class, and this is for communication, introduction to communication class with Joe Lewis, and for my introduction, I wanted to talk about interpersonal communication and how it's shaped not just by what we say, but how messages are interpreted. And according to the textbook, emotions come from the meaning we assign to situations and not the situations themselves. That means that others don't make us feel emotions, we generate them through interpretation. However, we still have responsibility for how we communicate because our words and behaviors influence how others interpret messages. Emotions come from appraisal, the process of assigning meaning to events. That's in the book. Two people can feel differently about the same situation because their interpretation differs. My personal example was that I have a friend, or had a friend. We were friends since we were 9. And she stopped communicating. Well, she didn't stop communicating. It was just, I was calling her, she was not calling me. I was the only one initiating the friendship. And then later on, I found out that she was just struggling with some mental health. So my feelings had changed. Now, this shows emotions arise internally based on the information we have at the time. And then now there are limits of saying you make me feel. The idea that others cause our emotions is a fallacy of causation. That's in the book. Taking responsibility for our feelings helps us understand our own thought patterns and triggers. But communication still influences our interpretations of other, it still influences the interpretations others form. So at one point I had told my son, "You're acting like a crazy person." He had did some stuff. It's a long story, but he did some stuff and he really got me upset. And I told him he was acting like a crazy person. And I found out that really hurt his feelings. His hurt came from his interpretation of my tone and words. I'm his mom. I'm not supposed to call him a crazy person. And it didn't make him sad, but my communication created conditions for the harmful interpretation. Communicators share responsibility for clarity, empathy, and emotional safety. So my ethical responsibility, or the ethical responsibility in communication. We can't control others' emotions, but we can reduce the likelihood of negative interpretations. Responsible communication strategies. Use the I language instead of blaming you language. Practice empathy to understand how messages can be received. Use collaborative communication, especially during conflict. Avoid intentionally harmful communication. Personal example to avoid this is my personal example was with my ex-husband. When we used to argue, he interpreted my silence as me not caring. Collaborative communication and therapy reduced the misunderstandings. His emotional responses improved because interpretation improved, not because he was made to feel better. So in conclusion, emotions come from personal interpretations, not directly from someone else's words or actions. Communication strongly shapes the meaning others assign to events. We cannot control others' feelings, but we can control how we thoughtfully and respectfully and clearly communicate. Healthy communication reduces emotional harm and strengthens relationships, while careless communication can increase negative interpretations. I did agree with I agree with a lot of what the book was saying. However, I do say that sometimes it paints a clear picture of how communication can go, but I have also experienced that not all people communicate positively. Some people don't want the positive out of the conversation, so the conversation will turn negative, or it will stay negative because the person is not open to hear the positive in the message, or the person just doesn't want to hear it from you. So that's my presentation. I know I went over a little bit, but my name is Sharita Manson. This is for my communications class with Joe Lewis.